My name is Michael Tanner, but most people call me Mike. I'm 39, career military, and when this all started, I was stationed in southeastern Poland, just a few miles from the Ukrainian border. I wasn't kicking down doors or clearing buildings like in my younger years. Those days were behind me. My role now was logistics coordination, helping route military equipment and humanitarian aid into Ukraine, liaising with Polish units, and managing NATO communications. Boring to most, but critical work. And honestly, I was proud of it. My wife, Amanda, was back home in Colorado Springs. We've been married for 11 years. We met in Texas, back when I was stationed at Fort Hood, and she worked as a veterinary tech. She always said she liked quiet men, steady hands, no drama. I guess that was me, or used to be. Amanda had been through 5 deployments with me. Iraq, twice. Afghanistan, once. Then smaller missions, Korea, Germany. This one to Eastern Europe didn't seem any different at first. I'd be gone for 6 months tops. I left the truck, kept the house payments automated, and kissed her goodbye at Denver Airport with a calm sense of routine. We'd done this before. The first sign something was off came in the form of silence. Normally, Amanda texted every evening. Little updates, photos of the dog, grocery list complaints. That stopped around week 3. She said she was just tired. Then the calls stopped coming. Then I noticed her Instagram went quiet, except for tagged photos, mostly from her friend Lindsay, out at wine bars, rooftop lounges. Amanda was always in the background, smiling in a way that didn't reach your eyes, wearing dresses I hadn't seen before, with people I didn't recognize. Still, I said nothing. Maybe she was coping, maybe she was just keeping busy. I wanted to believe that. I told myself the distance was temporary. I'd be home soon. But then came the email. Subject line: "We need to talk." No greeting, just a cold block of text. Amanda said she didn't think she could do this anymore, that we'd grown apart, that she had found someone who understands her better. She didn't name him. She didn't apologize. Just laid it out like a grocery list. She said she was keeping the house, since I was never there anyway, and had already filed for separation. I read it 3 times in my barracks room, in complete silence. Outside, I could hear a Polish transport chopper slicing through the air. The rest of the team was watching a soccer match on someone's laptop. I closed the email, locked my phone, and stared at the wall. My throat was dry. Not from tears, just that numb, airless stillness that creeps in when everything shifts all at once. The next morning, I logged into our joint bank account out of habit. The balance was almost zero. Every savings dollar gone. My credit card maxed. A new mailing address had been added to our mortgage account, one I didn't recognize. Amanda had moved someone in. Not a friend, not family, a man. She didn't just end our marriage while I was overseas. She gutted our life and handed it to someone else, while I was coordinating supply drops in a country facing real devastation. But here's the part Amanda didn't understand. I'm not the yelling type. I don't throw things, I don't threaten, I don't scream. I plan. And what she didn't know was that I had a plan she'd never see coming. I didn't reply to Amanda's email. Not that day. Not the next. I sat with it, let it steep. Silence is its own kind of answer, and in my world, it's often the most strategic one. There's something you learn after nearly 2 decades in uniform. Never react while your emotions are in control. Wait, watch, then move with purpose. That's how you survive. That's how you win. So I went about my duties, briefings at 0600, equipment manifests, logistics meetings with NATO officers and Polish command. Nobody knew anything had happened. My team still called me Tanner with the usual gruff camaraderie. I laughed at bad jokes, ate in the chow hall like always, but inside, I was working through possibilities,
quietly assembling a different kind of operation. That week, I requested extended access to the shared base computer. Nothing unusual, just needed to check shipment clearances. While I was there, I logged into our home security system, something Amanda probably forgot I could access. We'd installed cameras a couple years back after a break-in scare. She rarely used the app, but I kept it running. Out of habit. Or maybe instinct. It took all of 5 minutes to confirm what I already knew. A man, tall, younger, fit, was in my house, driving my truck, walking my dog, wearing my hoodie, the one Amanda used to steal when she was cold. They weren't being discreet. He came and went freely, slept in my bed, opened my fridge like he owned the place. I watched a clip of him cooking eggs in my cast-iron skillet. Amanda kissed him from behind, the same way she used to greet me when I got home from training runs, that same little laugh like nothing mattered. I felt still. Not rage, not sadness, something colder. A decision forming. The next morning, I messaged Paul, an old friend from Fort Bragg who'd gone into law after leaving the service. We hadn't talked in a while, but I'd kept his number for a reason. Subject line, personal. Need quiet legal guidance. His reply came 2 hours later. He was in. No questions asked. I told him everything. Amanda's email, the money, the man in my house. Paul was methodical, just like he was in the Rangers. He laid out my first options. Check for unauthorized financial activity. Confirm mortgage status. File a motion to freeze joint assets. Start tracking communications. Legally. No confrontation, no drama. Just slow, patient leverage. I followed every step like it was a field manual. Meanwhile, I began adjusting my pay deposit. Half now went into a new private account Amanda didn't know existed. I contacted the VA about my benefits, flagged everything for review. Changed all my passwords, even the ones she didn't use. Started a full digital lockdown. Paul also reminded me something important. The house was in my name. VA loan, approved under my service. Amanda had never qualified on her own. If she forged anything to make changes, that would count, especially if the new guy, whoever he was living there without my consent. I started compiling footage from the security system, timestamps, face IDs, vehicle plates. Not for court, not yet. For leverage. Evidence has weight when things turn legal, and I had every intention of staying within the law. By the end of the month, I knew everything I needed to know. His name was Caleb Monroe, personal trainer, former bartender. No stable income, 2 DUIs on record, and now living off my deployments like a king in my castle. Amanda had made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. And I'd do it without raising my voice, because real consequences don't shout. They arrive with paperwork.
By week 6, I had mapped out every move Amanda had made since I left the country. Her betrayal wasn't spontaneous. It was strategic. And that's what stuck with me. She hadn't just drifted away. She'd planned an exit, a replacement, and a financial ambush while I was halfway across the world. I reviewed the security footage daily, not obsessively, but like recon. Caleb came and went like he owned the place. He parked my truck in the driveway, let my dog run off-leash in the yard I landscaped with my own hands. He even rearranged the living room. I noticed the leather recliner I'd saved up for, the one Amanda once said looked too military, was gone, replaced with a beanbag and a stack of fitness magazines. But it was the little details that really started to eat at me. The framed photo of Amanda and me at our wedding? Gone. My high school championship baseball glove boxed up in the garage. The American flag from my first deployment, the one folded in a triangle and sealed in a case, missing from the mantel. I asked Paul to check into property activity. 2 days later, he called with news. Amanda had initiated a refinance on the house.
Not just a routine rate adjustment, a full equity withdrawal, $280,000. The request came through with my name on the paperwork. Only problem was, I'd never signed anything. Paul reviewed the signature. It was close. Same stroke style, same initials, but she'd missed a detail. I always signed Michael Tanner in legal docs, not Mike. She'd faked it. He paused before telling me the next part. The co-signer on the application was listed as Caleb Monroe. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my bunk. It wasn't just a love affair. It was a financial takeover. And it wasn't subtle. Amanda and Caleb were trying to liquidate our home's equity. Money I'd earned, invested, protected, while I was assisting NATO operations near a war zone. Paul was already one step ahead. He'd filed an injunction with the county to pause any property changes until I returned. But that was just the start. Back in Poland, I kept my mask on. Operations continued as normal. Convoys routed, paperwork filed, radios checked. Nobody suspected a thing. But at night, I dove deeper. I started combing through old emails, bank logs, tax documents. Amanda had opened 2 new credit cards in my name months before I deployed. She'd used one to book a week-long trip to Lake Tahoe with Caleb. Photos surfaced on her friend's social media. A wellness retreat, sunrise yoga, champagne by the hot tub. Meanwhile, I was eating MREs under blackout conditions 20 miles from the Ukrainian border. It was more than betrayal. It was erasure. She wasn't just replacing me. She was rewriting our entire life like I was a temporary mistake she was finally correcting. But she forgot something crucial. I'd built our life on discipline, patience, and structure. Every decision I had made, every benefit we enjoyed, the house, the savings, the health coverage, came through my service, my sacrifices, my name. And I kept receipts. I started organizing everything into folders, digital files, documented timelines, financial inconsistencies, video footage, forgery samples, even voice messages that contradicted Amanda's official claims. I knew what I was building. It wasn't revenge. It was a case. And it wasn't just going to burn her plan to the ground. It was going to expose everything and everyone who thought I'd be too far, too quiet, or too weak to do anything about it.
When you spend years in the military, you learn that the best operations are never rushed. Every mission starts with intelligence, leverage, and timing. That's how you take back ground. And that's how I was going to take back mine. After gathering everything, forged documents, unauthorized financial activity, digital surveillance, I sent a secure file to Paul. He called me that night, voice tight but impressed. "This isn't just a divorce case," he said. "This is fraud, identity theft, and possibly conspiracy." "Good," I said. "Now let's make sure she knows it." The first step was freezing. Paul filed a temporary restraining order on the house's financial movement, citing forged documents. That stalled the refinance and sent the bank into immediate review. Caleb, who clearly didn't understand the intricacies of VA loans, had signed on as co-applicant, which violated the terms of the mortgage. Next, we issued a fraud alert to the credit bureaus. That blocked Amanda from opening or using any more credit under my name. The cards she'd used to fund her little spa retreat in Tahoe? Flagged. Statements subpoenaed. Merchant names tracked. Then came the employment angle. Paul and I located Amanda's new workplace. She'd taken a job at a private animal clinic, the same one we used to take our dog, Ranger. I'd chatted with the owner once or twice, a retired Air Force colonel named Jenks. I didn't want to drag him into this, but I needed eyes and ears. I sent him a discreet message. "Sir, just a heads up. Amanda may be under investigation for misuse of VA-related documents. I'm handling it legally. No need for action on your part, just awareness." 2 days later, Amanda was pulled into a staff reassessment meeting. I don't know what was said, but I know she stopped showing up at work after that. She still didn't know I was back in the States. I'd quietly flown into DC for a series of briefings with Defense Logistics, took advantage of the trip to meet Paul in person. We sat across from each other at a small law office in Alexandria, reviewing the compiled evidence. "You want scorched earth?" he asked. "No," I said. "I want something worse." He raised an eyebrow. "I want consequences," I continued. "Not screaming matches, not courtroom drama. I want her to wake up one day and realize everything she tried to steal fell right through her hands." He nodded slowly. "Then we keep this civil, but we hit hard." From there, the next steps fell into place. We filed an official motion to retain sole ownership of the home, citing fraudulent attempts to refinance, forged signatures, and unauthorized occupants. The court reviewed the security footage, matched the digital signatures, and granted a hearing. Amanda was served with notice 2 days later. Her reaction was immediate and sloppy. She called. I didn't answer. She texted. Dozens of messages. Some pleading, some angry. Then came Caleb. He messaged me directly through Facebook. I hadn't even realized we were connected. "You think you're a big man, hiding behind lawyers?" he wrote. I didn't reply. He followed up with a voice memo. "Amanda said you're broke, that you've got nothing left. You're wasting your time." I saved the recording, forwarded it to Paul. Amanda's fantasy world was crumbling. No more spa days on my dime. No more romantic escapades funded by stolen equity. And no more pretending she'd simply moved on while I was away playing soldier. I wasn't just back on American soil. I was back in control. And the next phase, the exposure, would hit them harder than any screaming match ever could. I showed up at the courthouse 30 minutes early the morning of the hearing. Civil, quiet, low profile, exactly how I wanted it. I wore my dress blues, not to flex, not to intimidate, but to remind anyone watching exactly who they were dealing with. I wasn't just a jilted husband. I was a soldier, a strategist, someone who understood the value of order, structure, and consequences. Amanda arrived 5 minutes before the hearing. She was wearing a suit, too formal, too stiff, like someone had told her to dress like a professional woman in crisis. Caleb wasn't with her. Maybe he was smart enough to stay away. Maybe not. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. Paul handled most of the talking. He was calm, precise, surgical. He presented the forged mortgage application, side by side with my official signature on military documents, highlighted the mismatched middle initial, the forensic handwriting discrepancy, the VA mortgage clause violation. Then came the cherry on top. Caleb's voice memo. "Amanda said you're broke. You're wasting your time." The judge leaned back in her seat and let out a breath like she just sat through a slow explosion. Amanda's attorney didn't say much. She tried to argue emotional stress, miscommunication, marital gray zones, but it didn't land. The paperwork, the digital logs, the footage, it all told a very different story. In under 45 minutes, the judge ruled in my favor. The refinance was voided, the house reaffirmed in my name alone. Amanda was ordered to vacate the premises within 21 days. Caleb was legally barred from the property. And pending additional investigation, Amanda faced potential charges for forgery and financial fraud. When it was over, she looked at me for the first time. Her eyes were glassy, desperate, like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she expected the same quiet Mike who'd once laughed off her snide comments and forgiven her distance. But that man was gone, buried under Ukrainian snow and Polish gravel,
replaced by someone who didn't need to shout to make things happen. On my way out of the courthouse, I called the locksmith. By nightfall, every lock in the house had been changed, alarm codes reset, security footage backed up to a cloud server Amanda could no longer access. Her name was off the utility bills by the end of the week. I left a box with her belongings on the front porch, labeled and sealed. No note. She tried calling a few more times, left voicemails. "I don't understand how you could be so cold. This isn't the man I married. You're overreacting, Mike. We can fix this if you just talk to me." But I didn't need the talk. I had acted, and that spoke louder than anything she had left to say. Meanwhile, Caleb, he tried to stir things up on social media. A few passive-aggressive posts, some jabs about bitter exes and insecure men hiding behind lawyers. I ignored him. His time would come. Because I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. There was still one more move, the one that would make everything public, undeniable, and unforgettable.
The storm hit 2 weeks later. It started with a simple call from Paul. "You sitting down?" he asked, a rare smile in his voice. "I'm always sitting," I said. "You know that." "Well, Caleb just got picked up for violating a restraining order." I sat forward. "Explain." "Apparently, he thought it'd be smart to stop by your house, while Amanda was grabbing her things. Police were waiting. You're protected under both the court order and federal housing statutes tied to your VA loan. That's not just trespassing, that's a federal violation." I nodded slowly. "He go quietly?" "Not exactly. He resisted, made a scene, cursed out the responding officer, who, by the way, is a former Marine. Bad move." I let that settle. I hadn't expected Caleb to implode this soon. I figured he'd vanish the moment things got legal. But some people don't understand consequences until they hit them in the face or slap a pair of cuffs around their wrists. Then came Amanda. She filed an appeal, claimed she was coerced into signing the refinance papers, said Caleb had manipulated her, lied to her, and pressured her into taking financial actions she didn't understand. She even suggested I had orchestrated the whole thing to punish her. Desperation doesn't look good in legal filings. The judge didn't just deny her motion, she added a formal warning. Any future false claims or filings would result in sanctions. Paul was delighted. I didn't smile. Not yet. Not until everything was sealed. Amanda's social media disappeared after that. Instagram gone, Facebook deactivated. Her friends, the ones who used to tag her in wine bar nights and beach getaways, quietly untagged her from everything. Word was spreading. Not because I made it public, but because truth has a way of leaking, especially when it's backed by court records. Then, the letter arrived. Not from Amanda, from her parents. A handwritten note, formal tone, awkwardly polite. "Michael, we were deeply saddened to hear about the circumstances surrounding your and Amanda's separation. We were unaware of the financial matters involved and want you to know you have our support. Should you ever need anything, please don't hesitate." I read it twice. The same people who once rolled their eyes when Amanda said she'd married a soldier. The ones who told her I was too quiet, too serious, and too temporary. Now, they were writing me like I was the one who'd been wronged. Because I was. I pinned the letter to the corkboard in my home office, not as a trophy, as a reminder. One evening, I took Scout, my dog now back in my care, for a walk around the neighborhood. A few neighbors waved. Some nodded politely. One woman, Mrs. Ellis, 2 doors down, stopped to talk. "I'm glad to see you back," she said. "Things were strange while you were gone." I just nodded. She hesitated, then added, "That man? the one who was staying here, he wasn't kind. We tried to mind our business, but it didn't feel right. It never did. And now, it was over. Amanda had moved in with her sister in Arizona, according to Paul's investigator. Caleb, out on bail, pending a misdemeanor hearing. Jobless, car impounded. His Instagram, once full of gym selfies and motivational quotes, was now silent. All the pieces were falling, not because I tore them down violently, but because I removed the foundation they'd been built on. Me. And now, the reckoning wasn't just personal. It was public and permanent.
I didn't need to ruin Amanda and Caleb. They did that on their own. All I did was hold up a mirror. The final blow came from an unexpected direction. The military, more specifically, from the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. A flag had been raised on my VA loan account during the investigation. They initiated a full audit. Turns out, the attempted refinance wasn't just fraudulent, it violated several terms tied to the original VA agreement. That triggered a federal inquiry, and Amanda, having forged documents linked to a federally backed asset, was now under review. Paul called me with the update. "She's in trouble, Mike. This isn't just about the house anymore. This is federal property law. You're not the only one pressing charges now." I sat with that for a while. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd trampled on everything I'd built through sacrifice. All those years deployed, all the missed holidays, the stress, the bullet-pointed benefits on dusty paperwork. She saw none of that. Just a bank account, a house, a space to fill with someone else while I was gone. Now, she was about to learn what it meant to face real accountability. Meanwhile, Caleb made a final desperate move, one that blew up in his face spectacularly. He sued me. Yes, sued me. Claimed I had defamed his character by spreading lies and weaponizing the legal system against me. Filed a small claims suit for emotional distress, requesting $5,000 and a public apology. Paul almost laughed when he showed me the paperwork. He said, "This guy watched one too many courtroom dramas." We didn't even need a counterclaim. We just submitted the court transcripts, police report, restraining order, and mortgage documents with Caleb's name on them. The case was dismissed before it even made it to a hearing. The judge tacked on a warning about frivolous lawsuits. But the damage was already done. To him. Word spread in his circles. The gym that employed him? Cut ties. Apparently, they had a clause about staff conduct and ongoing criminal matters. Some of his former clients, the kind who loved tagging him in fitness reels, started leaving one-star reviews. He lost his part-time contract with a wellness influencer group that had promised him brand ambassador deals. His reputation was done. Amanda's fall was slower, but deeper. With the charges pending, she couldn't get approved for a new mortgage. Her credit was in shambles. The financial safety net she thought Caleb would provide evaporated. Her sister kicked her out after a month. She started crashing with friends, but people talk, and eventually, those doors stopped opening. I heard she'd picked up part-time work at a strip mall veterinary clinic in Tucson. No benefits, no security, just enough to keep going. Her social presence faded to silence. No photos, no updates, just a blank avatar and an empty timeline. I never gloated, never rubbed it in, never even responded to the handful of final texts she sent me. I made mistakes, I know that now. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we just talk one last time? No. Because when someone burns down your home, not the structure, but the trust, the foundation, there's no conversation that rebuilds it. Justice had been served not by violence or revenge fantasies, but by systems she thought she could exploit. And that, in the end, was the cleanest victory. There was one last thing I needed to do, not for her, for me. I stood on the porch of my reclaimed home, dog by my side, and deleted her contact from my phone. Not blocked, not hidden, erased. Because some people don't deserve the weight of a memory.
A year passed. Spring returned to Colorado, and with it came a sense of stillness I hadn't felt in years. Not emptiness, clarity. The kind of silence that doesn't scream or ache, just exists, like fresh snow before the first boot print. I retired from active duty that fall, 21 years in uniform, enough stripes to earn respect in any room, and enough scars to never need to prove it. I could have stayed longer, promoted again, maybe, but I'd done what I came to do. The mission was over. I bought a small cabin about an hour outside Fort Collins. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a wood-burning stove, a creek that sang in spring and whispered in winter. Scout loved it. He took to the forest like he'd been born in it. So did I, honestly. Some days I built furniture from old timber. Other days I sat on the porch with coffee and watched the sky shift. That was the rhythm. Simple. Honest. Mine. I never spoke to Amanda again. Not after the court rulings, not after the final asset transfer. Not even when the federal charges were quietly closed through a plea deal. She avoided jail, paid restitution, vanished into whatever life she could salvage. I heard she moved to New Mexico, worked at a pet supply store, drives an old Civic. That's all. And that's fine. I wasn't angry anymore, not even disappointed. I'd walked through fire, lost everything I thought mattered, and came out holding something far more valuable. My peace. You see, people think revenge is fire and fury, explosions, screaming matches, the big cinematic moment. But that's not real life. That's noise. Real revenge? It's calm. It's measured. It's knowing that the person who tried to destroy you now has to live with the knowledge that they failed. And that you didn't just survive, you rebuilt. I joined a local veterans group, nothing official, just a few of us who meet twice a month at a bar off Route 14. We talk about old times, new plans, and sometimes the battles that weren't fought with rifles. One night, I shared my story. Not all the details, just enough. An older guy, Tom, Navy corpsman from Fallujah, looked at me and said, "Damn, you never raised your voice?" "No," I told him. "Didn't need to." He nodded slow. "That's how you win." I keep a letter on my fridge now. Came from a stranger, a woman in Kentucky. Her husband, also deployed, had nearly lost his home to a similar scam. Turns out my case had helped trigger a broader investigation into fraudulent property transfers involving military families. Paul shared the details months later. The letter was short. "You don't know me, but what you did protected us. Thank you." That letter reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten, that even in personal war zones, we can still make something good rise from the rubble. I look at it sometimes when the nights feel too quiet or the ghosts get a little loud, and I remember, I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stayed calm, stayed smart, stayed me. Amanda may have taken the house for a while. Caleb may have driven my truck, worn my clothes, stewed in my kitchen like a king. But when the smoke cleared, I was the one left standing. Not bitter, not broken, free. And the life I built afterward, it's not big, it's not loud, but it's honest, it's real. It's mine. And no one will ever take that from me again.